Welcome to Dusty Workbench. Of course, I'm Paul. Today, we're going to talk about chalk paint. More specifically, DIY recipes, and we will talk a little bit about the ones that you can buy off the shelf, ready-made as well. So today, with the current situation, I can only show you two that we've used and that we've made and used on different projects. I was going to show you a third one. I was going to try it out, actually. I was curious to see how it worked. But unfortunately, we can't show you because of this thing here that I'll talk to you a little bit later in the video. And another one, there's another fourth one that I would have been curious to try out. But if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and if you want to get notified every time we have a new video, of course, click that little bell beside the subscribe button. Okay, let's get right into it because I don't want to keep you here all day. So the first recipe is one that is made with Plaster of Paris. This we got at the big box store and it was under $7 Canadian because we are in Canada. And so whole container like this. We've done a couple of projects actually with this, and I'll give links or pictures somewhere on here which projects we've done with that. And basically, yeah, really pretty good recipe. And the recipe is basically 1/3 cup of Plaster of Paris, 1/3 cup of water, and then 1 cup of paint. So now the paint for all these recipes, before I get into all the other recipes, basically the paint you want the most flat or matte or satin type of paint that you can get or that you have on hand in your shop already in your home. You might have used in other projects. As long as it's as flat as you can, the better it is. So because actually what we're just trying to do is make it even flatter by adding like the plaster kind of thing, so the chalk. So this one, just to give you a price comparison right away, this was 20 bucks, again Canadian, and that was regular price. It wasn't a special or anything like that for a whole gallon. And it is a flat paint, and we went with sort of an antique cream. Again, you'll see another project we made with this one, but basically you can make all these recipes using this paint. Again, flat, matte, whatever you can in that area. So to make the Plaster of Paris, again, 1/3 portion of the Plaster of Paris, 1/3 portion of water, and then 1 portion of paint. So you can do the 1/3. I'll do the 1/3 cup. This is a 1/3 cup. No, not the whole thing, but I have a mark on here which is a 1/3 cup. I don't know if you can see that kind of thing. And little tip here. Sometimes your significant other doesn't like it when you take their stuff from the kitchen, the measuring cups and tablespoon measuring things out of the kitchen into the workshop. So a little trick just to save a few arguments is to take plastic cup, take that measuring cup, bring this into the kitchen, take one of those measuring cups, pour it into your cup, and then mark where that measurement is, and you have yourself a measuring cup that you can bring into the shop. Same as here, I have a 1/2 cup one, so, and they will have my tablespoons one here as well, so I have a 2 tablespoon, 1 tablespoon for another recipe. So, little tip, keep it in mind because it does work well. So 1/3, we'll take the 1/3 cup water. So 1/3 cup of water. And then you're going to do the 1/3 portion of the Plaster of Paris again. So now you can just use cup one way or the other. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to mix it all in with the water anyways. I hope you can hear me all right. I'll see after post once I do editing of this film. I'll probably just speed this up. So here we go, 1/3 cup of the Plaster of Paris. I'm going to mix that into this cup here. I'll throw it in the other cup in a minute there, just so you have an idea of what it looks like. It's fairly watery. It's like a kind of a bit like a thin smoothie, I guess you can say. show you what it looks like. I don't know if any of you have ever gone for sort of like the berry and swallow. That's kind of what you're drinking, is that little thick chalk stuff here. So that's what you get. So that's a 2/3. And then you can mix 1 cup of paint with that. So that's a 1/2 cup. I don't have a cup now, so we'll do 2 halves here because I didn't. And I'll just show you what it kind of looks like. That's 1/2. Mix into my, oh, here it is. I'll put that back in this cup. A little bit of cross-contamination. Now, the thing is with this recipe, it doesn't have to be 100%. And you can add a little bit more chalk if you find that it's, or not chalk, but Plaster of Paris, which is basically the chalk. But really, it does work if you're at least fairly close. So, mix that up. So basically you just stir it. Make sure you really stir it well. So I'm going to speed this up here so you don't have to watch me stir. There we go. So once you stirred it, it's a little bit thicker. Now it's kind of like a yogurt or melted ice cream kind of consistency. Get that off. So you have a good amount here, and this is pretty much enough to do a 1/2 decent project. Probably like a small dresser or something like that. You'd probably have enough paint with that. So it's a good little portion. Just to show you how to apply it, of course, like all the other chalk paints, it's recommended that you use the chalk paint brushes, which give a little bit more body to it, I guess. This is for a little bit more detail, but you can use the big one. I'll use one for this piece. Now this one, I already did 1 coat. So you can, and I actually ended up sanding it a little bit just to see. And it actually was a very sort of glossy finish on it. It's actually old flooring. And it had a very glossy finish, and it stuck right on there. Like, it's not coming off unless you really sand it off. And that's the cool thing with the chalk paint. You don't have, if you want to refinish furniture, of course, you just can put it right on over top. And basically, with this paint, you would only need about 2 coats, and it would be fully covered. And then you come back, if you want the distressed look, you just have to sand some areas off, the edges and things like that, and it'll give a nice finish to it. And it dries pretty fast as well. So really cool stuff. Voila. And that was a dark color like that underneath. And again, very, very even more glossy than what it was on this side. This one was like a shiny polyurethane over top. So that's that one. And again, now let's go over the disadvantages. So the advantage is cheap. Again, 20 bucks for a whole gallon like this. So I might have used maybe $1's worth here. And really, for 7 bucks out of all this, you know, maybe $1's worth of that. I don't know, we'll say $2. So, you know, basically 3 bucks, depending on how much paint you need. It might cost you $5 for a whole project, for a whole unit kind of thing. So very cost effective. So 5 bucks for, you know, if you wanted to do one of these, it'd probably cost you around 5 bucks. This is a quart. Yeah, it'd probably cost you 5 bucks. And again, that would be enough to do a decent size piece of furniture. So keep that in mind. I'll close this so it doesn't get too dry. That is the Plaster of Paris. Disadvantage, it does dry quickly. You'll find that as you're painting your piece, it starts to dry off. It starts getting dry around the edges, and it'll start clumping up, and it falls in, and then you have to stir it again. A little trick that I've learned as I was doing it is you use the little spray bottle of water. Just keep spraying the top, mix it in a little bit, and it doesn't get as clumpy as quickly, and you don't have to worry about clumps going on to your piece, which is not a huge deal because you're going to sand it anyways, and it doesn't show at all, but it just gets annoying. You're trying to paint and you get these big clumps, and then it leaves a streak kind of thing, and then you have to take it off, and then you try to get it wet again. So fastest way, just squirt, 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 paint it on, and away you go. So that's basically the only disadvantage. The same when you put it into a container, it won't stay as good because it will dry up afterwards on the outside, and then it falls in, and then those things don't even break down anymore. It just stays hard. So that's kind of a disadvantage. You can't really prepare this stuff ahead of time. So that's with the Plaster of Paris. Second recipe, calcium carbonate. Got this off of Amazon. It goes between $10 to $20 for a pound, depending on the brand. So this one is kind of midway. I think I paid for it around $15 for a pound. I used, of course, some of it for a few projects. And the recipe for this one, again, I'll have this all on our down below, as well as on our, we'll make a blog about this. 2 tablespoons of the calcium carbonate, 1 tablespoon of water, with 1 cup, again, of the paint. So very much, you need a lot less of the calcium carbonate versus the Plaster of Paris kind of thing. So again, I'll show you what it looks like. We'll just put that here. I'll grab a spoon. Got my spoon. We are going to put, again, about the same way. There we go. These are my marks. So 2 tablespoons. Get that out. I think I had some in there already. So again, it's basically like your crayons chalk. It is chalk. So it's like if, you know, the whiteboards, when you, I don't know if you had whiteboards or chalkboards, I should say, in your day, depending how old you are. But if you had chalkboards in your classroom and you're erasing it and all that chalk comes down and it gets full on the bottom tray kind of thing, it sort of gathers up after a little while. That's what this stuff looks like. So basically, you just put in your 2 tablespoons, which was my second mark there. And I'm going to I'll use this cup again. This time I only need a tablespoon of water, which is on my lower mark. So I'll just do that. Too much. Contaminate that water. And you'll see that it's about the same consistency as the other stuff. Again, don't need as much because it is, I guess it's much finer than the Plaster of Paris, but it still does give that chalky feel once it dries, and it sands off very easily. Either the Plaster of Paris or the calcium carbonate both sand off about the same way. So it's perfect for, again, for these projects. So once again, did I say I'm trying to do this quickly? So usually I'm not as messy. I'm not necessarily the cleanest person either, but usually I'm not as messy when making this stuff. I'll have to use another cup. So mix that. Oops, sorry. We'll do that in here. Again, keep those measuring cups. Half. And again, I need 1 cup of this, so 2 halves. Would have been easier if I marked a 1 cup mark, but I forgot. So make sure you get all the paint out of there. Again, not a perfect. Doesn't necessarily need to be. Water, and it's about the same kind of like melted ice cream kind of consistency. That looks pretty good. Throw that in there. I'll use this brush. You can use a regular brush as well, but I just like these brushes. They do you can get more paint on it into it, and so you can go a bit longer without having to dip it back into the paint. And it goes on about the same thing. Same way as the Plaster of Paris. So again, this was a shiny piece of wood, and once it dries, you feel the grit in there. So it works really well. Again, dry, sand it, and you can coat it with whatever you want. So advantage with that, again, price, it's probably a little bit more expensive. Like I said, it's about $20 for this small bag, but as you can see, you don't need as much. So it probably comes out to about the same thing. I would say around $5 if you wanted to make a whole quart of this kind of thing. So, you know, it's really, really price effective. Oops. Oh, actually, it'd be more than $5. I was just thinking about that because this is a quart, so that's 1/4 of a gallon. So if that's 20, so that's $5 just for the paint. So maybe I might have used $1 worth of calcium. Same with the Plaster of Paris, I might have used $1. So it's about $6. We'll say $6. And we'll put this aside. I have to tell you, the calcium carbonate, unlike the Plaster of Paris where it gets dry around the edges and it dries up in a container, this stuff doesn't dry out. It stays moist. You put it on, it doesn't cause any caking or anything like that. I haven't had any little balls of dried pieces. It just went on smoothly like I just did now, and I don't have to use this thing. And then when I was done with it, I poured it into the container, and it's still good 2 weeks later, kind of thing. The last time I used it, and it's still nice and liquidy and in good shape. And there's nothing caked on the edges or anything like that. When I did that with Plaster of Paris, there was like a big cake of paint, a chalk paint kind of thing, and it fell in, and I had to throw it out. So calcium carbonate is definitely better if you want to make stuff in advance, or if you have leftover, you don't have to worry about wasting it. So whereas the Plaster of Paris, it'll end up wasted, so you have to make sure you just make enough. So that's the second recipe. Third recipe, again, I really wanted to try it and show you as well, and I also wanted to see if it was something I can use, but the one I had that goes into this recipe, it's what you do is you use compound, so drywall compound, if that's the English side. Drywall compound, this happens to be a dust control. So like this, already made drywall compound, or I guess you suppose you can use the ones that are not mixed and you just add water, but this one ready mixed, and the recipe is 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup, depending on, I guess, how wet or how dry your compound is, with 4 cups of paint. So you can really make a lot. So you're basically with 4.5 cups worth to make this project. So you'd have to figure out the ratio, 1/4 to 4 cups, 1/4 cup to 4 cups, again, depending, again. Unfortunately, I'm not able to try it out and show you and say this is the better recipe kind of thing. Reason being, another little tip: if you find some drywall compound sitting in your garage that's been there for 2 or 3 years and probably froze for 2 years, don't open the container. It was black and smelly, and I closed it really quick, opened up the doors, and I had to ventilate, even though it was like cold outside. I had to close it up because it was a weird black texture and did not smell good. So fortunately, I can't show you, and I don't think it certainly would not be a good recipe to be using that compound. But I'd be interested to see. It seems like the reviews I've seen that other people have used, that mixture says it works quite well also. So it could be another option instead of having to mix the water and powder. But really, it goes really quick, and you can make, again, a quart in really, in no time at all. The fourth recipe, again, I was curious to try it out. Unfortunately, I don't have any on hand, and that's non-sanded grout. So grout that you use for tiling with a type that's called non-sanded, and that was 2 tablespoons of the grout with 1 cup of paint. But again, from everyone, all the results I've read from other users, it was not recommended because it seems like it was very gritty and did not sand off very well, go on very well. So I'm not even going to try it out, and I'm not going to recommend it to anybody because compared to the plaster or the calcium carbonate, I don't see why you'd want to. And I think the non-sanded grout is probably around the same price as the calcium, so why bother in my view. Fifth thing we've tried, of course, was the off-the-shelf. This happened to be a spray one on. We did do a project with that, or 2, and I'll show again pictures. With this one, it worked very well. If you want to do a small project very quickly, not having to mix all this stuff up, you grab your can, you shake it, and you spray it on, let it dry. It dries fairly quickly. Again, you can do a second coat, third coat. Again, depending on what your finish is. My wood was unfinished, so the first coat did sink in quite a bit, so I had to do 2 other coats. But it works well. Yeah, it's definitely, it's very handy, especially if you're doing small projects. And one of the projects was a tray, and another one was a lantern, I believe. So spray that on, you're done in no time, sand it, and you move along to the next project. So if you're looking for doing something quickly and fast, this is the way to do it. Except the price, I'm trying to remember how much it is. I think it's somewhere between $10 and $20 per can. So it's not cheap, and like I said, you can't do very much. You might get away to do something like this if it only needs about 2 coats. This is a little 3-drawer dresser. I don't know if you can see that. And this is made by a company called Rust-Oleum, but there's other companies out there. Prices vary. You can buy a quart like this. Ready-made is about $30. I've seen on the low end. I've seen them as high as $50 just for a quart. So it's a bit on the expensive side, and that you would still have to brush on, clean your brushes and everything else. Whereas calcium carbonate one for about $6. So, you know, I think it's worthwhile just to order this. I just got this off Amazon. I'll put the link down below if you're interested. Calcium carbonate. And if you want more details about this, go to our website, dustyworkbench.com. We're going to put a video, we're going to put a blog out there as well. More details of the pricing and the ratios and the recipes, so you can print it out if you want to. And I'll put it out in the description down below on YouTube as well. So, hey, if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button and hit that like. Talk to you later, guys.